everybody, and welcome to the Human Echoes podcast.
I'm Albert Berg.
I'm Tony Southcott.
And we're coming to you this week with our review of
Big Trouble in Little China.
Now, this was kind of a happenstance thing because last week we originally planned to review something else, and somebody brought up a question about the casting of The Rock in the potential remake of Big Trouble in Little China and how much they hated that. And I was like, I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
And that's still in the very early stages, may not even happen. I have some comments that I'll say about it at the end of our review. But I just gotta say, Tony, this movie is beloved by a lot of people, and I don't understand why.
Oh, I think it goes back to what was said in the movie. Sometimes it's just not meant for you. It just is.
Okay, yes, but
the movie describes you. You don't have to understand it. It is beloved.
Yeah, but I want to understand, Tony. I don't get... Do people take this seriously? Do they think that, Jack Burton is legitimately an action hero?
No, that's part of why it's funny. It's just a quirky 80s action movie that's a lot of fun to watch.
Okay, but it's a lot of fun to watch this guy not shoot people and not punch them in the face?
He punched a few people and shot...
he tries. He's a wuss. He shoots the one guy, and the guy's like, have you shot somebody before? And he's like, sure I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Mouthing off about, the checks in the mail, bub. Just talking on the CB radio to, nobody. Just blabbering in his own ears.
There's probably a whole contingent of truckers in the San Francisco region that just tune into him. What was the name of his truck?
Oh, the Pork Chop Express.
Yeah, that's his radio show.
Everybody else in the movie is more interesting than him. He stumbles into all these other people's stories and does nothing.
Like Mad Max?
Yeah, no, because Mad Max at least helps. He's competent. Right, we talked about this in relation to Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones, in the larger plotting scheme of things, may not have actually changed anything, but he actually manages to shoot some people in the face at times.
Yeah, and he manages to be a legitimate badass, not just a guy who looks like he could be an 80s action hero with a wicked power mullet.
So I just don't get it, Tony. I like some of the action, but it was confusing to me. It was confusing how that, you have these sort of over-the-top action sequences, but they're not, connected to anything.
It's also funny seeing the difference between the 80s, Kung Fu fight and, something like The Raid, just how much technically better we've gotten in that aspect.
Well, this is not meant to be anywhere close to... you could still... This is like Quentin Tarantino Kung Fu.
Yeah.
You'll still see that. This is... he does better than that a little bit, but people flying through the air and, standing on other people's swords, that's the kind of thing he would do.
Yeah.
He does do. I don't think there's actually standing on the sword thing in this one, but... that's the wire fu. It's not meant to be like The Raid. The Raid isn't really a kung fu movie. It's an MMA movie almost.
Yeah.
With martial arts mixed in.
Yeah. I don't know. I looked at this movie and I was actually surprised that I thought I was going to start having thoughts like you were. I was going to be like, man, this doesn't hold up. It doesn't look good. It doesn't this. It doesn't that. The pacing's bad. It's got better pacing than most 80s action movies. I will definitely give it that too. There's always something happening. It doesn't feel like there's a bunch of useless scenes. Maybe to you it did, but it felt like it was a pretty quick hour and a half for me.
No, see, I didn't I will agree with you. The pacing was fine. The story moved along at a decent clip. There was different stuff happening at different points, and almost a confusing array of new characters popping in at times. What was up with the female journalist and her other lady sidekick that just showed up out of nowhere?
I'm not sure. At least the lawyer was a little bit fleshed out. Kim Cattrall's character, she was she was actually an important part. But the journalist lady, they take the time to introduce her, and then they're like, "No, you're staying at the restaurant. You're not doing anything."
Well, yeah, they both. Again, it seems like they're following this theme of him being in someone else's story, right? They show up on the tail of some, journalistic hot lead or whatever, and it's in the middle of their thing, and he's just like, yeah, I don't know whatever my action line is that I stole from some other movie from 10 years ago, but yeah, the check's in the mail, bub. I maybe if I understood going into it that it was supposed to be a comedy.
It's definitely supposed to be a comedy.
I mean, there's not like.
It's like
people talk about how quotable he is. Like he's.
I always thought it was funny because he always has that like kind of John Wayne drawl to him, so it makes him like quotable in that sense. But it's not quite the same.
And I will say the movie looks great. You know, it's shot really well. You have some very cool sets. You know, some cool setups and fight scenes, and the special effects, especially for the time, are great.
Yeah, like that. The use of practical effects was good, but not overdone. The use of digital effects, like the kind of forced lightning style stuff that one of the three major villains had. Like I didn't even catch some of those guys' names. It was like the Storm Brothers or some dumb thing like that. But those effects look pretty awesome.
And I for some reason I just loved it when he came down like holding on to the lightning, like he was just lowering himself down with lightning. That was, to me, that was the coolest part.
Yeah, the guy looks like Raiden and everything from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, they show up in those weird hats that like they don't really need later. I don't know why they had the hats. It kind of looked cool for a while, and then I don't know. I just didn't connect. Like him as a character didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
Like him being a bumbling idiot, and I understand that that's the point now. Like I read that John Carpenter's like, yeah, this guy's an idiot, and he thinks he's an action hero. I'm like, all right, yeah. Why do I care? Because you make me like, it almost seems like a fake out. Because if you're not going into the movie expecting that, you'd think he's actually going to be the action hero, and then he just keeps failing at everything, and you're like, why? Why am I watching this? This guy is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and he thinks he's Hamlet. Little Shakespeare reference there for you people. But yeah, I just...
Like, I enjoyed the movie. I was talking with a friend of mine last night who actually lists this in his top 5 all-time movies.
And like, he is not alone, okay? There are many of our viewers out there who are mad as crap at me, you know, and I've looked at all of the reviews on IMDb at like 8, 9, 10-star reviews. People love this movie, Tony. And I want to understand. Listen, I'm not bashing this film to just bash this film. I legitimately want to see what it is that people see in it. Maybe I need to watch it again.
I think you'll be able to get it, but like John Jones was saying the same thing, like at DB1 on Twitter, he's a good friend of the podcast, he was saying that whenever he saw it back in the day, he had no idea that there would even be any sort of cult following behind that movie.
And like, I guess, I mean, he didn't seem to be really terribly enamored with it all these years later, which a lot of people, maybe it's one of those home video things, right? Like, that plays, I mean, I've watched it on my home screen, you know, at home too, so I don't know what that would make a difference really, but maybe it's one of those things that you watch as a kid and something about it, like, kind of, if it plants that seed at the right time, you know, you'll have it for all that time.
I think there's also a lot of people who are huge fans of John Carpenter, especially that section of movies he did, like, between The Thing and kind of later, like in the early 2000s and late 90s, he definitely fell off. But there was a time where John Carpenter was making some of the coolest movies out there. Like, The Thing was a thing of perfection back in the day.
Well, I'm not... Listen, I'm not really criticizing the directing, because there's nothing wrong with the visuals or, you know, the effects or the, you know, framing and all that stuff. All that stuff works fine. There's nothing here that really blows your mind as far as, you know, like cinematography goes, although, again, the special effects are pretty cool. But it's just like it never grabbed me. It never got its hooks into me somehow, Tony. You know, from that beginning shot of him, like, yakking away, you know, just being a blowhard, I'm like, well, I don't like this guy. And, you know, starting out not liking the guy who the movie's about, like, I never got over that. I never got to a point where, like, yeah, Jack Burton, man, you go, dude.
You just get so fixated on certain things in movies, though. Like, if there's something that doesn't grab you immediately, like, it happens in every movie that we watch that, like, is universally loved. You just latch on to the thing that you dislike.
Are you saying I'm a hipster, Tony?
I'm not saying you're a hipster.
Because I'm a hipster, but...
You don't understand my childhood.
I don't understand your childhood. No, I don't understand a lot of people's childhood. I watched awesome movies as a kid.
Like, we're out the magnetic tape on the VHS for.
At least we have it in HD on Netflix.
Yeah. It was a good port too. Like I was thinking it was going to be a little bit like the aspect ratios wouldn't be right. Like anytime you're looking at a movie from the 80s on Netflix, it's questionable if it's going to actually look decent. Like if they actually scan it in right. I've had some trouble with that anyway, where it's just movies look unwatchable. They're too grainy.
I just want to go back and talk about the effects though, because as much as I'm bashing on stuff like that little floating head thing is one of the best looking effects I've seen in any movie. Like, of any age, you know, and that is obviously a mechanical animatronic thing that was, you know, green screened in. You can kind of maybe see the, you know, like, all right, I understand how they did this.
It's worse than the actual thing.
Possibly. I don't know if you could have done the thing entirely with animatronics. You know, a lot of that was stop motion, I believe. So there's some technical limitations there.
Yeah,
but it really is like, and that monster that just shows up out of nowhere and grabs the heroine. I mean, that thing was really cool looking and freaked me out, by the way. Like it was just like one of those, like, whoa, what is that? Why is there a monster now?
The
looks so creepy.
I also really like the makeup effects on the old Lopan.
Yeah, well, the young or whatever, like Supernatural Lopan looks pretty creepy too.
Yeah.
I mean, both of those and, like, the guy who inflates himself with air till he explodes, like, that looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, just great, Tony. And then he has, like, his disco wedding room or whatever, where they have all their, you know, kung fu fights. I don't know what's going on with the set direction there. Like, his style, like, he's a 2,000-year-old Chinese dude, and he's decorating his wedding chapel with neon. I mean, I feel like that's a little bit in poor taste, Tony.
Yeah, he's got the giant skull entrance that has, like, the neon over the teeth.
I don't expect them to be subtle, you understand. Like, the skull I can take. But the escalator and the neon seem a little bit out of place to me.
Like, he pretty much, like, escalators and slides around the whole time, too.
Right, but that one particular area was an actual escalator.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. That was a bizarre entire sequence. Like, the first thing that happens is Jack shoots the ceiling and gets knocked out for, like, half the fight.
Which is, again, classic Jack, thinking he's the bad guy, or, you know, not bad guy, but the awesome action hero, like, shoots his gun into the air. Luckily, he knows how to turn the safety off by now, because he had got into a fight before where he didn't have any idea about that.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking about this. This actually reminds me, like, the dynamic that you had in the peanut butter solution between the useless white kid and the action Asian kid.
It really does. It's very much like...
It's like them grown up.
The sequel to the peanut butter solution, but made 10 years before the peanut butter solution came out.
I know. I'm drawing lines that aren't there, but that's...
No, it's not. Listen, we can draw the lines we want to. I think that there's an interesting case to be made for... And this sort of ties in with the movie we saw last week, where you have this sort of cultural layering of, you know, you have the Asian culture and the Western culture colliding together. And a lot of these shots you'll see, and we can go back to the sort of the set design of the wedding chapel, right? Because you have that sort of like Eastern influence, but then also the garish American stuff in there. And when they're in the fight scene in the alley, almost every shot had like a Coca-Cola poster or, you know, some product placement in with all of the kung fu and the fighting and everything. And there's maybe an interesting point being made about, you know, the integration of other cultures into ours and how that, you know, how they pick up stuff from us and how we pick up stuff from them. So from a sort of thematic standpoint, I found that interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
But it didn't make the movie necessarily more enjoyable.
Yeah, I wonder, like, just some of the things that were going on with Carpenter. Who wrote this movie? Did you see? Was it Carpenter?
I did not. I did notice that it was originally intended as a sequel to Buckaroo Banzai in the Seventh Dimension or whatever.
I don't know anything about that.
All right, well, we should have Brophy on to talk about Buckaroo Banzai. That's another movie that's a cult favorite that I could not get through. Maybe we'll talk about that later. I think it's also on Netflix.
Maybe all the Carpenter stuff's on there.
Well, Buckaroo Banzai, I don't think is... Well, now I'm going to have to pull up IMDb, Tony. I don't think Buckaroo Banzai is Carpenter. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I was trying to figure out if Brophy could get in on this because he's got so much more knowledge and he would much more eloquently / violently defend this movie to you. Because all I can say is like, oh, it was cool, I liked it. It had lots of good sets and character design, and I thought it was funny. And like the little Chinese dude was awesome, and he was flipping around and doing bad kung fu. It's just I've been spoiled on kung fu lately, like from a lot of different movies where this just did not seem all that gripping or like it was just so slow comparatively.
Buckaroo Banzai, by the way, Across the Eighth Dimension was directed by W.D. Richter. But another one of these movies that looks amazing, by the way, but just did not put its hooks in me with Buckaroo Banzai. And I really should finish it because I want to see what they do with the visuals because it's a crazy looking movie. But listen, Tony, I am not here to take away your love of this movie. All right? I want to share it. I deeply do. And I am glad that it makes you happy to watch it. There is nothing about that I would take away. Me criticizing it is not saying you're wrong for liking it. I just don't. I am legitimately trying to reach across the airwaves here to you and to our listeners and say, tell me what it is that grabs you about this. Is it the action? Is it is it that you found Jack Burton likable? And all of his doofusness and not being the hero, like, maybe it's just that people say, hey, I understand that he's dumb, but I still find him fun and connect with him.
Yeah, I always thought it was fun. Like, imagine yourself at 10 to 12 years old, and that you just got this VHS, and you're, like, having a sleepover with friends, and you pop it on, and it's your first viewing experience, and you've got that 10-year-old view of the world where, like, anything that's just outrageous is super awesome and it makes you happy. Like, think about, that aspect of yourself. Like, I know you didn't watch a ton of movies at that age, but that's whenever it hit most of us.
Okay, so here's a question for you, though, Tony. Did your 10-year-old self understand that the check is in the mail speech was him being a complete blowhard and talking out of his butt?
No, we just thought, we thought it was funny that stuff kept happening to him. We didn't realize that he was, almost completely inept at what he was doing, and whenever he did something right, it was almost accidental when he wasn't trying.
He does end up shooting some people. I mean, he has a machine gun, and yeah. I will say, eventually he gets his act together and mows a few guys down.
Well, the only time he does anything right is whenever it's a complete reaction. Not whenever he's planning something, not whenever he's storming in. Whenever something is about to kill him and he just reacts and does it, he's fine. But if he's trying to be the hero that runs in, hair glistening or hair blowing in the wind, all powerful style, something bad's going to happen and he's going to be useless.
That's actually a really good point, Tony. I didn't think about that, in full detail, but his, all of his successes come when he's reacting to things, that are threatening him. But every time he sits down, he's like, all right, guys, we're going to make a plan. We're going to go here and do this and kill these people, and it just instantly falls apart as soon as he tries to execute.
Yeah, and you think about how they started the movie where he's talking with that one guy and he hits the bottle and the bottle goes flying and he just snatches it all Jedi style. Or you think about, whenever a knife's thrown at him and he just grabs it, that sort of thing. So.
It fits. It all fits together. And I kind of put together the bottle and knife thing, but there's a couple other places, too, where he just sort of, isn't thinking and he does okay. But once he, gets into his, I am going to save the day now mode, he just, he's completely worthless. He's really just there to tag along with the people who know what they're doing.
Yep. And there were a lot of people that knew a lot of what they were doing. They weren't really sharing what needed to be shared with him. He was just kind of along for that ride.
Would you have shared with him, Tony? Would you have been like, all right, well, Jack Burton, we need to, you know how to use that gun? Here's what you do. There's safeties over here. How about some, trigger safety? Don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're ready to shoot some people. Keep it out of that trigger guard.
Well, I think they just thought he was too dumb to really tell him.
That's what I'm saying. You'd just be like, oh, this guy again. Fine. Yeah, come on. Whatever. You're.
They admired him for being brave, but he wasn't exactly. Yeah.
I will say, there's the opening scene, Tony. That opening scene where the Chinese guy is talking to the lawyer about defending, Jack Burton, and his, that scene sets up so much stuff to be awesome, and like for Jack Burton to be awesome, that I legitimately was expecting that. Like that scene is possibly the best scene to me in the movie. The very first scene when he's talking about like, you know, leave Jack Burton alone. That man's a hero, and you know that they're like they said, oh, the thing exploded with a giant ball of green fire, and I'm like, well, that sounds awesome. How did that happen? You know, when you set all that stuff up, but then once it starts to play out, it kind of like loses the magic a little bit for me.
Yeah. I did wonder how they did that effect with like the green fire and everything. How like it looked like it was almost kind of what they did with the fountain, where it was like bacterial effects and things, just kind of overlaid because it didn't look like normal lighting and it didn't look like CGI like placed over perfectly. Like there's a few effects in this movie that really stood out.
They might have just like not a sort of composited regular fire, but with you know a different color over you know the building.
That's true.
As it's happened. I don't know, Tony. I'm just throwing some ideas out there. But people had to work a lot harder to make things look cool back in the day.
Yeah.
Not like Jurassic Park where you have all the CG and stuff, and it's just like, oh, yeah, dinosaurs. They're here.
Yeah.
Let's lampshade it and then use it anyway. So.
Explain the phrase lampshading for people who don't understand.
Oh, lampshading is like to literally to hang, like when in a movie when they point out something that's ridiculous. As they're, you know, so that it's hanging a lampshade on the thing, like, oh, don't look at this over here, our complete overuse of CGI, and our need to make everything bigger and badder for everybody all the time. That's a lampshade.
Okay. I know you were wanting to talk a little bit more about The Rock, and we actually got a question about that again. This is from at Geek Outs Happen. I think it's a nerd website, and they might have a podcast, so Geek Outs Happen on Twitter. They asked, how do y'all feel about Dwayne The Rock Johnson being cast as Jack Burton in the remake? Like, I know you had a little more to say about this.
Yes. Okay, so, having seen this movie, and not having loved it, but I don't hate it, alright? I see no issue at all with Dwayne The Rock Johnson playing this character. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, to me, seems like the perfect casting for this guy.
The big bubbling hero.
The big bubbling hero, he's got the charisma, but he's just dumb and doesn't know what he's doing. Like, if they... I don't know if... I don't... Again, I don't get the movie. I don't get how you would make a remake exactly. You know, if they just turn him into an action hero, well, then it loses something. Maybe I'll like it.
That movie was...
But it seems like if you transported Dwayne The Rock Johnson back in time and put him in this role in this exact same movie, it wouldn't have changed much. Yeah. I mean, Kurt Russell does a good job, but Dwayne Johnson's a fine actor.
Yeah.
I mean, people bash on him, you know, but really he's worked hard, and I think he's improved his skills, and he's in some dumb movies doing some dumb stuff, but when he wants to, he can bring it. You know, we saw it in Pain and Gain, and really, Pain and Gain is almost the same character, right? Not quite to the level of...
That character, like, cleaned up his coke habit and decided to be a trucker.
Yeah, and decided that he's not so... That character isn't so full of himself as Jack Burton, but we've seen him do, you know, more than just the standard... You know, I mean, he's a wrestler! He comes out and talks about how awesome he is as his job, right? Like, beyond... It's other than the acting. I know he's an actor now, but, like, that was all that he did. That's all that this guy does. That's all that... I forgot his name all of a sudden.
Jack Burton?
Yes, that's all that Jack Burton ever does is run around and talk about how awesome he is and then not be awesome. Yeah. That's his definition of his character. Dwayne The Rock Johnson will kill in this role.
Yeah. I always think back to Chris Jericho on an interview with Kevin Smith talking about how there should be no surprise that wrestlers end up being really good actors. Like, especially with Batista in Guardians of the Galaxy and things
that seems a little bit strong. There's a lot of wrestlers that end up being mediocre to poor actors.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them that do really, really fun things like Rowdy Piper and They Live and things like that.
Okay. I'm just saying, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, I've said he's pretty, like, really good. You know, not like upper echelon, but he's exceptionally competent as an actor. Yeah. And I think most wrestlers don't achieve that level of ability as an actor.
They're actors for a living, so we shouldn't be surprised when they can at least throw down and have a good time on film.
Yes. But no, I have zero problem with that. But here's the thing I'm interested in. Everybody's up in arms about Dwayne The Rock Johnson being Jack Burton. I read up on several stories about this, and like the headline of all these is John Carpenter hasn't talked to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson about the remake, and then it kind of gets into it. It's just like, yeah, it's really early and we haven't really discussed it, but he's not saying like I haven't talked to him, I know nothing about it. But the one thing that John Carpenter that they've quoted him saying is, hey, if they give me enough money, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, why is nobody mad at John Carpenter for just being a complete sellout? I mean, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's like, I think this guy's pretty cool, I'm going to make a movie about it. And John Carpenter's like, do whatever you want as long as I get my cool $5 million, y'all. I mean, he didn't say $5 million. I have no idea how much he's angling for, but, like, John Carpenter's a sellout. I'm sorry. Like, if these comments are, I mean, and great for him if he's making money off of his art, and that's fine. I don't want to diminish the artist's, ability to make money off of what they do and what they've made, but I mean, to me, the person who looks more like someone who's trying to profit off of the 80s property is not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's the guy who made the original property. He's like, oh yeah, we can milk this thing for some cash again. Everybody's going to be like, John Carpenter's vision should not be touched. John Carpenter's vision is to make more money off of his 80s property. He's the one who's going to sell out just as much as everybody else.
If you did work 30 years before and had a chance to make $5 million off of it, I'm sure you'd consider it.
No, I'm fine with that, but I'm just saying, like, you got to put the pot with the kettle, Tony.
Yeah.
I'm fine with everybody making money off these 80s properties. Great. As long as you go into it with the mindset of making an awesome film instead of just like, all right, well, people have heard of this thing before. Which, again, how in the world is this? I mean, this isn't like the A-Team. You know, this is a movie that failed.
Or something.
What?
Like, I wonder if they're going to like try to Zack Snyder it or Nolan it and try to make it all dark and earnest and everything.
That seems like the worst way to go.
I know, that's why I'm saying
this needs more comedy, not less. Like, I didn't really laugh at it, but I understood that it was supposed to be funny. It was one of those things where I was like, all right, I'm getting that this is comical, but I don't, like, it's not making me laugh. Like, if they can inject more, like, obvious humor into it so that I start, like, actually like, oh, ha-ha, then...
Get Miller and Lord to do it or something.
Ooh, Miller and Lord would be great for this. They're doing 8,000 other things, so they don't have time, but... I would love to see someone like them take attack at it. You know who'd be good for this, Tony? Colin Trevorrow. Yeah. Get him off of Jurassic Park 6 or whatever, and get him to do the Big Trouble in Little China remake with The Rock.
I'd watch it.
Anyway.
I'll watch it either way, but yeah.
I think that'll wrap up everything I have to say about Big Trouble in Little China. We didn't really give a synopsis, and we're not going to. If you haven't seen this movie, go watch it on Netflix.
Yeah.
You'll probably like it more than I did, because everybody else does.
All right. What's new in your life?
What is new in my life is that I'm going to go see Jurassic Park again on Tuesday. I can't wait. I'm all about that Jurassic Park, man. My wife didn't go with me on Friday, so I'm going to take her again. We're going to see it again. So pumped. That movie is making so much money, too.
Yeah. How much did it make in its opening weekend? Like, what did they estimate?
Well, to be fair, Tony, as we're recording this, the opening weekend has not ended.
I know. I'm saying, what are they estimating? I was seeing
but it's looking like... sorry, I said Jurassic Park. I meant Jurassic World. It's looking like it's on track for, if not beating The Avengers, which is the top-grossing opening weekend of all time, it's super close.
Yeah.
Let me... Box office...
I was looking at things that were estimating in the 150 million range domestically. I wonder what it's going to be like with the worldwide.
I'm sorry, did you say 150?
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing 204.6.
Damn. That was, like the 150 I was seeing was on Saturday morning because it had a really good opening day and opening Thursday since they're starting to do that more. Must be, like, it must have just gone crazy over Saturday and Sunday to make an extra 50 million.
I mean, people, listen, we talked about it. I told everybody it was good. The one negative review that I read, I'm still bummed out about that. For some reason, I punished myself by going back and reading these nasty reviews, Tony, from these people who, like, I think of myself as an intellectual. I think about the meanings of film and dig into what they're trying to say and what the thematic elements are, and I'm not just sort of like, I'm actually not turning my brain off. I didn't turn my brain off and enjoy Jurassic Park. I turned my brain on and still enjoyed it. Okay.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I went back and enjoyed this, and all the commenters like, yeah, this review's right on. This movie sucks. So, like, it's a little bit uneven thematically. Some of the stuff that they're trying to say maybe gets a little bit swallowed up in the dinosaurs. But some of the stuff they're trying to say is really interesting, and we're not going to redo the Jurassic Park, review. But I just felt like that. This is a movie that, actually had some heart and some thought behind it, and it didn't live up to the original, no, but that's fine. It can still be a good movie on its own, Tony. It can be a good movie that's not quite as good as another good movie, and still be a good movie.
Yeah, still succeeded exactly what it wanted to do. It gave you dinosaurs, it gave you fun, it gave you little bits of horror and craziness, and that's what it wanted to do, and that's what it succeeded at. It was so good that we didn't even plan to do a 0.5 episode. We just watched it on Friday, and we were like, we have to.
Well, when we get excited about a movie like this, Tony, it's in theaters, and, it's sort of, something people can go out and see. We want people to be able to participate and enjoy it with us. So that's, kind of where we go.
To, celebrate something completely mutually, too.
Yeah, and a lot of, you just heard our review of, Big Trouble in Little China, so we don't always say positive things about films, but generally, if we do an extra episode, it's not because we want to trash the film. It's because we're like, hey, you guys gotta see this. And I thought it was interesting,
Like Tusk.
Sorry, what?
Or whenever we promised an extra episode and it just doesn't turn out quite as well, like whenever we did Tusk.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, I had some negative things to say about Tusk, but I thought that movie had some really interesting things that it was doing and saying, and I like Tusk, Tony. I went back and watched it again, and I still, liked what I liked and didn't like what I didn't like, and I recommend that movie. I think that if you like weird movies, it's doing something that the other movies are not doing, and it has more thought in it than you'd expect.
I can just see it now. We're going to get at least 2 tweets about how Kevin Smith sucks from Joseph. Joseph, you're from Jersey. You should worship the man.
I don't know about that. I haven't seen very many of his films. Honestly, I didn't see Clerks. I watched. That was another one where everybody loves that movie. Started watching it, quit about halfway through. I was like, I don't feel like I need to keep watching, guys. This was okay, but
you shouldn't watch Dogma.
Okay,
Dogma was a good movie.
But anyway, going back to Jurassic Park, I think one of the things that they might have even oversold a little bit, was they went back to, we're going to get back to the sense of wonder and awe and things. And then I really feel like if you want, there's a point where you can say, hey, they actually didn't do much of that. But I think that that's actually an interesting commentary in and of itself, in that what Jurassic World does is that it says we have the things that we loved as children, but then we take them and we try to repackage them in a way that our children will love them. But what we do is we take out all of the danger and all of the sort of joy of discovery and just be like, we love this thing and we repackaged it for you in this really safe little box. Here you go. And our kids, end up not having that sense of wonder like we had.
Yeah. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of kids with a sense of wonder from this. There's probably so many 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds that had their minds blown this weekend.
Do you think that there's a sense of wonder? Because I really felt like this played like a horror movie.
I thought there was some wonder in it, but that was
there was some. Okay, and I thought that the movie did a really interesting thing in that. Again, I don't want to re-review Jurassic World, but that scene where they go off the beaten path and they're out of the main part of the park, right? When they're exploring, that's when they get to see. There's still some horrific elements in there, and like I said, it's not a perfect analogy, but when they're exploring and finding new things on their own, that's where the wonder comes from. It's in going in new places and finding things for yourself. It's not in repackaging everything that came from before, although the thing they find was a thing from before. Again, not a perfect analogy, but in my mind, you keep making things safer and more shiny and oh, look how great it is. I had this thing, and I want you to enjoy it too. Let them find their own thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay if you can show them Star Wars and you can, show them Transformers and the new I think that's really the problem that people have with all these remakes is that they're trying to take the old thing and just, like, gussy it up and knock off all the rough edges and all the sort of deeper meaning and, everything that made people love it and just be like, here it is in this nice little lunchbox.
Yeah, just too polished, like you've said that before, like, not everything has to be so pretty.
Yeah, it doesn't. So I think that was sort of what one of the points Jurassic Park or World was trying to make is that once you actually, take that experience of, that everybody had back in 1992 or 3 or whatever, and we're like, wow, dinosaurs, and you try to be like, hey, kids, come back and see wow, dinosaurs. What you end up with is a sterilized, a park. It's Disneyland, and it's sort of artificial, and they may enjoy it to a degree, but ultimately it's kind of hollow.
Yeah.
So
they have to up the ante.
Yep.
Make it even interesting to anybody. Anyway, I think we should move on to the questions.
Yes. Just so you guys know, you can tweet us anytime at HE Podcast with your questions. We try to answer some of them on the show. We don't always do a good job of tweeting out beforehand, hey, we're recording the show, but it gets weird with our schedules when we record. So anytime you send them, Tony will get them, he'll set them aside, and we will do our best to answer as many of them on the show as we can. Tony, what's the first question?
The question comes from John Jones at DVWhat on Twitter. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the inevitable viewing of Pippi on the Run and why?
What is Pippi on the Run?
We're going to be having a viewers choice month again here soon. We'll be talking about that a lot. We'll be tweeting it out. We'll be letting you guys pick movies and torture us again. Although we had some really, really, really bad ones like Hairspray before. And then we also were given a movie Candyman, which ended up being awesome.
Candyman was legit. Like,
yeah.
That was a great movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing a flying car and a train and Pippi riding a bull.
It's Pippi Longstockings.
Yeah. I don't see an issue here. This sounds awesome.
I'm going to say that I'm at about a 1 out of 10 on being excited about this movie, and I will probably have to drink heavily.
What was the specific question? What was the wording?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the inevitable viewing of Pippi on the Run and why?
Oh, well, I wasn't excited at all when he asked the question, so I guess it would have been a 1. But, I mean, there's a flying car, Tony. I'm like, at least at a 5 for a flying car. Come on. IMDb has it at 6.8. It can't be that awful.
Yeah.
There's a flying car. Flying cars are always awesome. Full stop.
Go off Fifth Element.
And there's a train, like an old school steam train. Who doesn't love an old school steam train?
I love old school steam trains. I get to climb up in them anytime I go to Durango.
AJ has the thing from Bubble Guppies that he watches where they have there's a train race episode, and one of the they have the new shiny train and then the old train. The old steam train is number 9. So every time he sees an old steam train, he's like, number 9. Look, Daddy, number 9. I'm like, yep, that's number 9.
These old short gauge railroads that are up in Durango, like the ones my grandpa works on. It's funny because they set everything on fire as they go past it. So they have these pop cars that are ready to extinguish fires.
Oh yeah?
A pop car is basically a car that's been modified to run on railroad tracks. It's just kind of an interesting thing because they're the narrow gauge railroad. It's super thin. I want to say it's it's under 3 feet, possibly only 2 feet wide for the actual rail. So it's these little tiny rails that you're going over these mountain passes and over timberline areas. You've got a sheer drop of at least 700 feet. So my dad said that he used to hike those and he would just be plastered against the wall as the train is going by a few inches from his chest. Otherwise it would be hanging off the edge on the other side. Be some crazy stuff.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it's how my first dog lost her leg.
What, she got run over by a train?
Yeah.
That's so metal.
Yeah, her name was Aspen. She was this big old black mutt of some kind. We could never really tell.
But
She
she
was
survived,
black.
right? It's not like she
Yeah,
lost her
yeah.
leg and then she died like 2
No,
minutes later.
she was
Because
our
that's
happy.
not a cool story.
Yeah, she was our happy little tripod.
Okay.
She was awesome.
I was about to be like really sad, like, that's our dog lost our leg. Fortunately, she died right after that, so she didn't.
No, it got caught in a railroad tie and she just couldn't get away, so it took her leg. But the vet, or they thought that she was attacked by a bear or something, but the vet pointed out the grease and some other things on there. Like she literally ran home with the missing leg. But she was an awesome dog. She lived for like I think 12 years after that, so she had a good long life.
What is the next question, Tony?
Next question is also from John Jones. Your recent fermented lemon beverage making process should be complete by now. How did it turn out?
This is for Tony.
Yeah,
I haven't been making fermented lemon beverages.
I think that you would like my fermented lemon beverage. It's not very alcoholic. It's just enough to be kind of sparkly and bubbly. It's good. And if you drank the whole gallon, you would probably get drunk, but it's not a whole lot. Like it's just like having a nice cold lemonade that has just a little bit of alcohol in it. It's perfect. This was a really good batch. Once again, our cider turned out funky, and I don't know what the problem is. After looking up some stuff online, it's probably with the yeast, because champagne yeast is apparently the wrong thing. I'm just trying to find a way to make alcoholic sparkling cider, and it's not working. But the lemon stuff is awesome.
I will say, for those of you who don't know, I'm teetotaler, don't drink any alcohol or whatever. But I remember a specific moment in time. I was at my grandmother's house. I was upstairs in like the rooms that she had up there that we would stay in, and there was a TV on, and the TV ran a commercial for Mike's Hard Lemonade, Tony. And that commercial was like the one thing that has ever really made me want to drink alcohol is like, that looks good. I would like to drink some Mike's Hard Lemonade. I'm not going to, but in my head I'm like, I could do that. I could drink some Mike's Hard Lemonade. I think I would probably, if I was an alcoholic drinking type person, I'd probably like all the girly fruity drinks.
Yeah, a lot of people try to say it's emasculating and all this stuff, but my dad, who is a mountain of a man, is all about margaritas and daiquiris and lemonade type stuff. Like he's all about that. Like he's just fine with he'll drink whiskey straight if it's there and he likes that, and he also likes the sweeter drinks. So I've never had a problem with that. It's like dancing. My dad told me whenever I was 8 years old, he's like, you need to learn how to dance because that's how you get laid.
Almost literally.
Yeah.
They are very closely connected.
Yeah. It's just, and yes, that did happen when I was 8 years old. I didn't know what he meant, but.
Oh, I thought you meant you got laid at 8 years old. I was like, Tony, I want to give you a fist bump, but that's just a little too early.
No, I was 16. Whenever I turned 16, I quit EverQuest, which was an old MMO World of Warcraft style game. Within 1 week of turning 16, I got my driver's license, I got a girlfriend, I got laid, and quit video games.
That seems like a very life-changing week for you, Tony.
It was
you just decided you know what? I'm done being a nerd.
Well,
I'm gonna have a car and I'm gonna have sex. Yeah. Suck it, EverQuest, or my girlfriend, whoever gets there first.
Both. Anyway. Part of what I did at that time was I was just I don't want my parents to drive me on a date, so I'm going to wait until I'm 16. And it just the stars aligned. A few days after my birthday, I got my first actual date with a girl. And then a few days later, it went further.
You don't have to give any more details than that, Tony.
No, I'm just saying it was a very, very interesting week, especially because she was so guilty because she was very, very religious. It was an interesting week.
I want to pry, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to let our listeners be like, what is... what? Is that the last question?
There is one more, but it's actually related to Big Trouble in Little China.
Well, go ahead. It wasn't the one you asked earlier, right?
No.
Okay.
This says, this is Hunter Hill, which is HBOMB Comedy on Twitter. Junior Be Thy Name on Twitter thinks that Kurt's mullet is the best mullet of that era. Agree or disagree?
I don't have an expertise in mullets, but I gotta say, he rocks it.
Yeah. He actually made you understand why it was a hairstyle for a little bit. Like, it wasn't as ridiculous as some of the mullets you see now. Like, it wasn't Joe Dirt, that's for sure.
No, and it wasn't, I didn't, now that you say it, it's like, I guess he does have a mullet, but I didn't think about it. I mean, he looked great. You know, he was a little bit silly, you know, in his
subtle mullet. It wasn't like probably the best mullet I've seen recently. Like, there's this weird trend with Brazilian fighters that they're bringing back, like the East Chicago waterfall, which is where you shave the sides, like, completely down. You have the hair short on top and then have long hair in the back.
Yes, the subtle mullet is the better mullet. I think that's true of most haircuts, except for the bald look. You can't do subtle bald. It's either all the way or not.
Yeah. And the only sign that it's not subtle like that is whenever you don't take enough time with your razor, which happens a lot to me. I'll just be at work and I'll rub the back of my head and I'll be like,
You missed that one strip?
Yeah.
That is such a bummer. I've done that so many times. It's like, and then, like, you know people are going to see it. It's not like, my hair is going to go a little long, I can get to the barber next week. It's like, this is going to be on the back of my head all day long. Everybody will notice.
Should just, like, leave a battery-operated one in my car for days like that.
You can't battery-operated shave your head, Tony.
I do it all the time.
No, you got to get it smooth.
Yeah, it always feels better when you bick it so people can grab your head like a basketball.
Mine's a little bit stubbly right now. I didn't do it. I haven't done it since yesterday, but
yeah, yesterday was when I did mine. I always try to do it before we do these. Every once in a while, you'll see like some quarter-inch long fuzz on my head, but it should just be banished. If you had, like, say you didn't have to pay for it, and they offered you that like laser hair removal, would you get it so you'd never have to cut your hair again on your head?
No.
I think I would.
No, because I don't, like, there was a long time when I had, when I grew my hair, and now I've started shaving it, and for all I know, maybe I'll want to start growing it out again. Maybe I want to look like a businessman. Maybe I need to go on the lam. Maybe I've decided that I can rock the Kurt Russell mullet with the bald, patch in the front.
The only haircut, like, I could, like, see myself having is this mohawk I used to do. It was like the Chuck Liddell wide mohawk. I liked that for a while, but I think my hair is a little too thin now. Too much Enbril, too much other things just driving my hair to baldness. It's not cool. I'm 28, man.
I'm almost 30. 30 in August. I have a question for you, Tony.
All right, go on.
We are recording this. For those people who don't know, we're recording this. We start at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night during the airtime of Game of Thrones. So we've missed the initial airtime for Game of Thrones for you. What are your predictions for Game of Thrones? Not knowing anything about, like, the books or whatever, what do you think we just missed and that we're going to have to catch up on?
Considering, we did miss it, I think that there are going to be at least...
Do you want to say who you think it's going to be?
Are you going to them out?
Yeah.
I want to put the editing time in to, like, out everything?
Well, I mean, asking you kind of makes it pointless, but yeah, there'll be some... So.
Alright. So, I think that there are...
Okay, well, I'm not gonna.
All right. Let me be clear. I don't think she's gonna make it. I think that this episode is called, and I don't think she's the one getting. I think that her sins are a little bit too much, and is gonna end up taking her out.
I think that she's possibly the most important dangling plot thread right now, with her being where she's at. That's one of the things I'm like, they got to wrap this up, but there's a bunch of other stuff that I'm also wondering where it's going since last episode, and we're not going to get into specifics, so nobody freak out. I know all of y'all haven't, don't watch it live, but I think that there's some interesting stuff going to have to start happening with. I don't know if it's going to happen this season, but there's this, sort of theme in Game of Thrones that, like, having honor gets you. And one of the most honorable characters in the show is.
Yeah.
I am like, I don't know how long she's going to last. I kind of doubt she'll make it to the very end.
If she does go, I think it's going to be in a pretty cool way. It doesn't feel like it's going to be tonight. Like, I obviously have no idea, but I don't think that it's going to be tonight. I think if you're talking about honorable people that are probably going to be taken out, I think that the guy who's currently, like, I don't know if he's actually, or what he's considered since he's loyal to the, like, I feel like he's almost too honorable and reasonable to live much longer. He's already got the off at him, so we'll see how that ends up turning out. I don't know if that's something that will happen in tonight's episode. Like, I feel like is safe right now. There's a lot that could happen.
Well, yeah, I don't want to. We can't get into specifics because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But I don't think she's quote unquote safe. I don't think she's going to die. But I think there's a lot of trouble she can get into where she's at. Well,
I'm just saying from the end of the last episode, like, it feels like she'll be safe tonight.
Yeah.
Other predictions, things that I don't want to get into because I think I've already been spoiled to them. I would like to say thanks to everybody who's been sharing that the video of the milk carton that was in our Minecraft server. That thing blew up to 1,400 hits really quick, and it's just awesome to see it. Thanks to Hannah for sharing it on Reddit, but it's awesome whenever something like that just works out, and like the work that John Jones put into that is absolutely insane.
The work that he put into it is really what makes the video, because I was bemoaning this on our little Twitter, or not Twitter, but our WhatsApp chats we do, inter-podcast people, with me and you and Hannah and Joseph, and I was like, of all the videos that we've made, right, because I've been making Let's Play videos and stuff for more than a year now, and of all the ones that we do, that one has the worst audio. Like, it only has one person's perspective in the video, and yet that is the thing that just explodes.
Yeah.
It's so... it's discouraging to be like, I've been trying all this time to, hone my ability to make these videos, and then Joseph's just like, oh, let's hop on Minecraft, and, we were having a conference call at the time, so I was like, I'm just going to keep it on the webcam mic, and apparently the webcam mic was way down super low, so that wasn't even very good quality from the audio. I mean, usually I would be recording with this microphone if we were going to set up for a Let's Play, but it just happens like, oh, yeah, well, let's hop on. He doesn't tell me we're going to be looking at something really cool. He knows, Joseph, you knew we were going to be looking at something awesome. All right? It wasn't a surprise to you. You're like, DV what built something really cool. He told me about it. I'm going to go get us some Minecraft and we'll record it. You could have said, Albert, get set up to do better audio than the crappy audio you're doing right now. But no, he doesn't. So what I got, I'm sorry so much for that audio. I didn't know. All right, and I appreciate the element of surprise. And that was there was a lot, I had fun making that video, and it was a fun video to put out there, but it just bums me out that it was like so crappy with the audio. Well, that is not how I want to represent my abilities to make a video for Minecraft, Tony.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Like, there's been a lot of episodes that I thought were quality where we've just had weird audio things happening. We're getting so many different lines of input happening that it's getting ridiculous, and there's always something that seems to mess with us. Like, if this video shows me and I'm like seconds behind or jerky or something like that, it's more technical difficulties that just spring up. And I'm going to go ahead and blame Twitch for this, because it wasn't happening until I started using Twitch and started messing with settings to get that going.
Is it running in the background for you?
No, not right now. I'm just saying it might have changed some settings. Either way, we did some awesome stuff with Twitch this morning where we went on Nidhogg and just started stabbing each other. It was a lot of fun.
I have used Twitch a couple times, and it's actually pretty fun. I want to do a little bit more of it. I don't know exactly what people are into. It's all things that we're
planning in the future. There's going to be more like HE podcast stuff happening on Twitch, but that's all in the future.
Have we talked about the trailer for The Martian yet?
I don't think so.
For people who haven't seen the trailer for The Martian, it's about a guy who gets stranded on Mars, has to survive, sort of like Castaway in space. This is another one of these books. I started reading this book again because of the trailer and everybody freaking out. And this is another one of those things that I don't understand exactly what the appeal is.
That book had me, like, on the edge of my seat. Like, I finished that book in, like, 3 days, and I barely ever do a binge anymore.
I mean,
Like,
I understand, like, it seems to me, now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not way far into it. I'm probably 4 or 5 chapters in, or, it kind of breaks them up into things, but, like, it seems to me like it's, I have this problem, I solve this problem with science. I have this other problem, I solve this other problem with science.
pretty much.
Over and over for the entire book.
An engineer.
Is that
But
correct?
it gets, like, every chapter gets a little more dire and a little bit closer. Like, it's not as cut and dry and easy as that.
Well, here's what I want to ask, though, and this is, kind of relates back to our talk about Big Trouble in Little China. Does the Mark, what's his name? What's the character's name in The Martian? You don't even know. Mark Watney.
Yeah,
That's
Watney.
how important the character is. Does he ever do anything that makes you, like, care about him as a person besides just solving one problem after another?
He's hilarious. He's awesome. You care that he survives because he's an awesome person and he's very funny to read.
I don't, though. Like, the most interesting thing that he's written so far in the book is the one heading entry that he makes. He says, "I wonder how the Cubs are doing." And like that, I was like, I have an insight into you as a character now, a little bit. Like, that's the tiniest window that you've opened into who you are as a person, period.
He's an engineer. That's like all he is.
Now, I'm not interested. Does he have a family? Like a wife and kids that are waiting for him?
He doesn't have wife and kids. He's got
girlfriend?
Parents that are very concerned.
What?
He's got parents that are very concerned, but no wife or kids.
Oh, of course he has parents that are... Everybody has parents that would be concerned if they were lost on Mars, all right?
That's the parents are dead.
Hitler's parents would be concerned if he was lost on Mars.
The Kampfjäger would find his way back.
Saying I want to live until tomorrow does not make you a unique person, Tony. What does he fear? What does he want beyond just survival?
You see a lot of his fears. You see a lot of the vulnerabilities. You see him start to lose heart. Like, you see a lot of that stuff build up.
Okay. I mean, I'm not very far into it, but it just seems like the wisecracking, like, I'm lost on Mars. Here's how I'm going to solve the problem. Like, that attitude just is not doing a lot for me. I'm not going to say I'm not interested because it is kind of cool to see, like, all right, here's the problem and, here's the science behind how I can fix it. But I don't, maybe it's just my, I don't like the smarminess of the character. I don't, yeah. Again, I'm vastly in the minority here. Everybody loves this book. And there's some appeal to it. I'm not going to say it's an awful book, but I mean, you said it was the best you'd read in the last couple of years, and I was like, Tony, did you take my recommendation and read Redemption and Indigo? Because holy crap, that book was awesome.
I can't read it because the cover is dull. I'll read it eventually, but like, there's nothing that like makes me want to read that book. I read the description, and I looked at the cover, and I was like, I don't really know if I care.
The cover of The Martian is a dude in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. I retract my criticism.
Right now, like I'm reading Entangled by Graham Hancock, and it's about DMT and like Neanderthals and stuff like that. It seemed more interesting than Indigo prophecies or whatever.
What?
Whatever book
you don't even remember the name of the book.
That's how non-interested in that book I am.
I'm angry with you.
You usually are. Usually over taste. And being late.
That too. We won't talk about that, though. I think it's about time to wrap this one up, Tony.
I think so. So what we need you guys to do this week specifically, because we have been putting more of this on YouTube, because we've been making these videos for you and staring into the eye of these webcams, is to go to youtube.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the main goal this week. We also want you to go to humanechoes.com and find the donate button because we need your money to keep this thing running. We pay for hosting. We're trying to watch more movies. We're trying to put out more content. We're trying to make this awesome.
We're trying to buy more games on the Steam Summer Sale.
Yeah, that's the real excuse. Because a $5, $10 donation on the Steam Summer Sale actually does a fair amount towards us finding cool stuff. So, anyway. We're doing a lot of different stuff on there, but humanechoes.com is where you find it. Find the rundowns, find videos, find all sorts of cool stuff. And once again, the YouTube channel, search for Human Echoes Podcast and subscribe, or you'll make Al a very, very sad Penguin.
Do you think we could get Danny Brophy to do the rundown for this movie?
Probably.
We'll see. This is not a promise. This is me right off the cuff. But if go to humanechoes.com on the Tuesday after this comes out and see if we were able to get Danny Brophy to write a text review of Big Trouble in Little China, because he will offer a different perspective and a better perspective than I have.
You just gotta read it in his like weird little cackly voice.
We almost had him on tonight, but
yeah,
last minutes and yeah.
It was mostly just somebody could defend it. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be talking about Noah next week. We were supposed to this week, but we had the digression towards Big Trouble in Little China. But yeah,
let's see some rock angels punch some dudes.
Yeah,
Rock Angels. That's the name of our Australian band, Tony. The Rock Angels.
So long as we got like a doof guitarist writing them, that'll be awesome.
That would be an awesome, like, that guy would almost fit in Noah.
Yeah.
I don't think you've seen it yet, but I've seen it, and the movie gets weird.
Yeah.
So
I would expect nothing less from Darren Aronofsky, but we will review that, and we will talk to you all very soon.
See you later.
Bye.